everybody! Welcome back to Fun Facts with Faith. It is the day you've all been waiting for. It's our next entry on cat coat genetics. Sorry, Mom. Anyway, today we're going to talk about tabby cats. So, tabbies. Solid color coat, so basically what I have been talking about for the past video, is actually a recessive phenotype or appearance. So coat pattern, tabby or solid, is determined by a couple of genes, the agouti gene and the tabby gene. So the agouti gene, which is named after the Central or South American rodent, the agouti, that has banded hairs like this, creates banded hairs. So the dominant allele, big A here, creates banded hairs, so hairs that have alternating areas of pheomelanin and eumelanin pigment. And then the recessive little a is the only genotype which will produce a solid color hair. Okay? And how does this happen? I told you this guy was coming back. So the agouti gene codes for agouti signaling protein. And that is a competitive antagonist at the MC1R receptor. That was a lot of scary words. Let's break it down. So if you remember when I showed this last time, I said that you could kind of go down two pathways, like the eumelanin pathway or the pheomelanin pathway, and that one of the things that controlled that was the MC1R receptor. Okay, well, one of the ways that the MC1R receptor decides that is what binds to it. So you have this alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone is one of the things that can bind, and if that binds to the receptor, we go down this pathway and we get eumelanin. Okay. If instead the agouti signaling protein binds to the MC1R receptor, we go down the pheomelanin pathway and we get pheomelanin. So if you have a genotype, which means you have a functioning agouti signaling protein, what ends up happening is it will sort of bind some, but you're also, like, those cats are also making melanocyte stimulating hormone. So you have both of these, and they're kind of like combining, they're competing for the same spots, right? Like they both want to bind the receptor. And so what you get are these cycles of like pheomelanin, eumelanin, pheomelanin, eumelanin, and that's what creates the banding on the hairs. Now, if you are a recessive and you don't have a functional one of these at all, this pathway is basically closed off to you, and all you make is eumelanin, and then you get a solid hair, right? So we see how these are connected. If we can, oh my God, okay. If we can cycle between these guys, we get, pheomelanin, eumelanin, pheomelanin, etc. If we can't do this at all, we just get eumelanin the whole way. Okay? So that's the banding. And the banding is necessary for a tabby cat to be a tabby cat. But there's also this other component, which is what is the actual pattern of striping and stuff on the tabby. And that's a separate consideration. And I'm not going to get into the specific genetics of that because honestly, it was too confusing for me. But I will just quickly go over the patterns with pictures. So the first is the ticked pattern, which you wouldn't necessarily think is a tabby pattern at all. There are no stripes. That's what an Abyssinian looks like. So that's a ticked tabby. They usually don't have any stripes, or they might only have some faint stripes on the legs, and they have that sort of sandy appearance. The most common pattern is the mackerel or the fishbone tabby. And that is like the thin sort of vertical stripes. Similar is the classic tabby or the blotched tabby. And that one might look similar to the fishbone from far away, but it's got sort of swirlies on the side. And then the last one is the spotted tabby, which kind of looks like a cheetah. And that you tend to see in breeds like the Bengal, the Egyptian Mau, or the Maine Coon. So that's tabby patterns. So we've covered agouti genes, tabby patterns. Okay, one more complicating factor. If you remember way back in our first video, we talked about the O gene and alleles, so like the red coloration. Okay, O genes they totally override the little a genotype. So what do I mean? Even if you have a little a genotype, which normally would make you a solid color, the O gene overrides that. Because remember, if you remember this guy, right, like to have solid color with agouti, we were basically just cutting off this pathway. No pheomelanin, but obviously an O cat has to be orange somehow, so that it doesn't really matter how. The point is, if you are orange, you are a tabby cat. Period, end of story. Even if your cat looks like they are solid orange, if you look very carefully, they actually are a very subtle tabby, okay? Okay. You just have to look more closely. So that is an interesting little tidbit. All right, the last thing I wanted to talk about today is the inhibitor gene. So the inhibitor gene is basically just prevents the deposition of pigment at the base of a hair. And how far up the hair it extends is like controlled by a variety of other factors, and we're not going to worry about it. But basically, if you have the inhibitor gene, which is dominant, so like if you have even one copy of inhibitor allele, big I, then you have inhibition, and it means that to some extent the base of your hair will be colorless and the tip will be colored. So what happens? Well, if you are a tabby cat, and we sort of like cut off the base and then you only have some color at the tip, what you end up with is a silver tabby. So their sort of base color is this very pale silverish color, and then they have darker stripes on top of that. If you are a solid color, and we just like cut all this off and it's just the tip that's colored, you get this coloration called smoke, which is just, it's kind of interesting. It's hard to describe. You kind of just have to look up a picture of it, but it looks cool, okay? So, to summarize for today, agouti gene controls whether or not the individual hair itself is stripy banded, okay? And it does that by controlling the switch between eumelanin and pheomelanin in the melanocytes, in the cells that make the pigment, okay? 1. 2, the pattern of, like the macro pattern of the tabby cat, whether it's stripy or swirly or whatever, is controlled by a different set of tabby genes, okay? That's 2. And then 3, the orange color, X-linked orange color gene overrides all of this. So if you are orange, you are tabby. The end, always, forever. Okay? Okay. So that is tabbies and coat patterns. Next time, next Thursday, we will talk about white coloration and calico and things like that. Okay? All right, I'll see you then. And in the meantime, you can come back tomorrow for another fun fact. Bye.